Welcome, everyone, to today's presentation on why it's crucial to approve the upcoming school bond referendum that will take place Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. Our community's future relies on the quality of education we provide, so our district has the resources they need to succeed and support all of our students. This school bond referendum aims to secure funding for critical safety and security projects on the main campus and new construction of our aging elementary school facilities. Education has the power to unlock the potential of every child. What we want you to understand is that back in 2018, your tax dollars were already distributed to districts to include for their school construction projects. We are asking you to invest in Chariho the way your tax dollars have already funded other school districts. By providing a supportive learning environment and access to 21st century resources, we can help students discover and develop their talents and interests. As of now, we have 3 communities that have not accessed the funding from the 2018 bond: Chariho, South Kingstown, and North Kingstown. When voters approved the school construction bond in 2018, it's reasonable to assume that they anticipated its implementation within their community. As you can see on this slide deck, back in 2018, this bond was approved by all 3 of our member towns. A yes vote meant that they supported the $250 million in bonds over 5 years in order to fund school housing aid projects, so school construction and kicking that can down the road could no longer happen. Again, we do believe when voters approved the school construction bond in 2018, it's reasonable to assume that they anticipated its implementation within their community. Through a comprehensive stage 2 process, we worked to comply with a project that we believed was the best next step for Chariho: 3 new elementary schools and main campus projects with bonus rates of 76 to 81%. That means a new Richmond Elementary School, a new Hopkinton Elementary School, and a new Charlestown Elementary School. And as it relates to the main campus, projects such as the Career and Tech Roof, middle school skylights, and the high school breezeways for health, safety, and security upgrades also along the main campus. School construction funding is eligible for temporary housing aid, which ends February 15th, 2024. Chariho did submit an application and met this deadline. Therefore, once our project is approved, we anticipate a minimum of 76% reimbursement. However, we do believe we will qualify for 81%. The bond is up to $150 million with a 30-year term. Both principal and interest are reimbursable. So as you can see, our state obligation, if we have 76% reimbursement, is $112 million. The local obligation would be $35 million at 24% responsibility to the local obligation. Many of our school buildings are outdated and need of repair. By approving the bond referendum, we can invest in modernizing our facilities to create safe, healthy, and conducive learning environments for our students and our staff. The access technology is not the only thing that's important. Health and safety upgrades, the security needs of the upcoming generation is very different than security needs more than 90 years ago. So why should you invest in new construction versus our current elementary facilities? There's major repairs that need to happen. Have we been maintaining our facilities? Absolutely. But as many of you know, when buildings become very old, it gets more and more difficult. This is not like a home. This is very different, as I'm sure many of your homes do not have over 200 to 300 students walking through them every single day. Operational costs for new schools are expected to be substantially less than those of the current elementary schools, which are 75 to 90 plus years old. Many of you can drive by our elementary facilities and see the window AC units. This is not cost effective. You know it, and we know it. By reducing the footprint with new facilities, long-term warranties on new building construction, and reducing costs from energy efficient buildings, we know we can save taxpayer dollars. New construction also provides $2,100 per student for new furniture, along with $3,000 per student for new technology. While approving the bond referendum requires financial commitment, it's important to emphasize that it represents our prudent investment in our community's future. By addressing infrastructure needs now, we can avoid more costly repairs and renovations down the line. This is the potential impact on our taxpayers. Investing in schools benefits the entire community. Strong schools attract families, enhance property values, and contribute to the overall well-being and prosperity of our community. All of our elementary schools are 4- or 5-star schools. Our high school ranks 7th amongst the state, and our middle school is in the top 15%. Now is the time to come together as a community and support our schools by approving the bond referendum. As you will see, $2.3 million is approximately what we will need with or without the bond. New facilities will provide overall reduced operating costs to the district and to our taxpayers. If the bond does not pass, here are some of the projects that would have to be prioritized. You can see that just with the main campus and not including the elementary renovations, we would be already at $6 million. Some of the renovations that the elementary schools would need to see is Ashaway Elementary's trailer that has a classroom inside it would need to be added as an addition, as I believe no one thinks students should be in a trailer. There's a lot of misinformation out there. We're going to ask that if you want accurate, updated information, that you reach out to the school district or go on our website. Here are some of the questions and the concerns that have been brought to our attention. If student enrollment is on the decline, why would we build new elementary schools? Across Rhode Island, we are seeing a shift in enrollment. That can be due to many things: family size, aging population, housing availability, etc. So while despite the decline in recent years, we still have an obligation to our children and our families residing in our towns. These new state-of-the-art facilities will provide a reduction in operational costs. Like I said, a reduced footprint, long-term warranties with new building construction and increased energy efficiencies provide a reduction in the costs to the taxpayers. We've been asked will the Department of Education in Rhode Island support renovation? They will not. RIDE indicated to Chariho that it would not financially support a full-scale renovation of the existing elementary schools due to the age of the facilities. How are we protected against rising costs if they do pass this bond? Well, the project budget has included very specific line items to protect us against further inflation and price escalation. These contingencies, if you will, are there to ensure that the complete scope of work can be completed within the total budget. With that being said, there's also a building committee appointed by the 3-member towns, and school committee members are also on that committee. That committee will work together to continue to perform value management at every stage of the Stage 3 design process, looking for efficiencies and cost-saving opportunities to maximize value and finish under budget. This does not mean that we will get cheap products. This means that we will be mindful and thoughtful about ensuring that we don't need the Cadillac, that sometimes the Toyota is just fine. We're also hearing schools like Harvard have had old buildings and they renovate. How are they doing it? If you take a look at the recent renovation at Mass Hall on the Harvard campus, which is 300 years old, an HVAC renovation cost them $13 million back in 2018. That's for a 22,000 square foot building. Richmond Elementary is 53,000 square feet. So if we look at the same HVAC need for Richmond using that cost back in 2018, you're looking at a $30 million project. We can do a brand new construction building with the same amount of money. This is why we are proposing new construction. We're also hearing, wouldn't it be less expensive to renovate existing schools? Unfortunately, it's not less expensive. Renovation typically incurs costs associated with hazardous materials like asbestos, selective demolition, there's reconfiguration that has to occur, matching old and new sections, and many other hidden items that can often have cost overruns. The Necessity for School Construction Committee worked very closely with a professional architectural team as well as RIDE to evaluate various renovations and new building options. We looked at examples from across the state. Due to the age of the existing buildings, it was ultimately determined that it would be more cost-effective to build new. It's important for me to note that reviewing what new construction will cost a district is required in the Stage 2 application process. RIDE will not approve any capital improvement plan unless a district has reviewed new school options. Here's where we are in the current timeline. We've submitted our Stage 1 back in September. We have passed the bond resolution back in January. We submitted our Stage 2 application in February, and now we're moving forward with the bond referendum vote. We have heard, this seems really fast. Why is the school committee moving so quickly? To be honest, this conversation has been happening since the facility review back in 2016. When I arrived here in 2020, there was already a Necessity for School Construction subcommittee reviewing 4 options for Chariho. Many of you may have remembered it was called Newer and Fewer. There were projects that involved 1 large elementary school, moving to 2 elementary schools, or moving to 3 elementary schools. All of the plans, when I came in 2020, would have impacted the removal of Hope Valley coming offline as part of the plan. We were stalled just a little bit and paused the project when there was litigation that occurred as we were unhappy with some of the architect's products. As a result, that pause happened between the last couple of years. And then the school committee reset back last January's budget season. This is a schematic rendering from our architects SLAM that were involved in our Stage 2 application. You can see this is just an example. This is not necessarily the school that we will receive, but what the responsibility of the architect is to show us what is possible with the funding that we would get. To be really clear, you cannot just determine how much money you want for new construction. The Department of Education has a formula that must be followed. The student enrollment is looked at by square footage, and then they determine how much you qualify for based on your student enrollment. So what does that mean? That means if you have 300 students in your school, you can't build a school for 600 students. So that's why it's really important to know that we just can't pick and choose and make things bigger because we want to. We have to stick within the formula that RIDE provides. Here is the project cost based on the review you just saw with that rendering. So you'll see there's something called construction costs and something called soft cost. Well, what's a soft cost? Basically, if you think about taking a school and turning it upside down, anything that falls out would be a soft cost, like the furniture as an example. Construction cost comes in with things like the maintenance, the steel, etc. The architect, the OPMs that are required will also be considered soft costs as part of this project. On our website, there's a lot of information. This is our bond referendum fiscal impact flyer. This reviews a lot of the information I've already reviewed, one being that our bond is a $150 million request from our taxpayers. The state obligation would be at 76% minimum, and it can be up to 81%. And our local obligation, if we get the 76%, would be a 24% obligation, and obviously it comes down to 19 if we get the 81%. If you scan this QR code, you can go right to our capital planning documents. I want to reiterate, with the bond or without the bond, our yearly obligation for this project or without this project is $2.3 million. I ask you, what would you think is the better investment? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to ask you on May 7th to consider supporting this bond referendum to do what's best for our taxpayers and most importantly, what's best for our students. This is an example of what the bond referendum question will look like when you go to the polls to vote. You will choose to either approve, meaning that you want us to move forward with this project, or you will reject, meaning you do not want us to move forward with this project. So what's the goal? Why are we here? Why do we want to do this? Well, we can't say it enough. We will have new state-of-the-art facilities, but is that the reason why? No, it's not the only reason. It's going to provide a reduction in operational costs. And many of you know that we have been asked year after year to become very fiscally responsible and very lean. And yes, while our budget does increase, to be honest, everybody's budget is increasing. The cost of things are rising. It's only going to get more and more expensive to do things unless we're really thoughtful about the future. We need to plan 30 years ahead, not 5 years ahead. We really need to be mindful of what that looks like. Reducing the footprint of our schools is going to maximize efficiencies. These long-term warranties are going to reduce operation costs, including the energy efficiency options that come with that. Here are some important dates we would like you to know. April 11th, there's a building committee meeting. Everyone is welcome to attend. That's a public meeting. That happens in the high school library at 5:30. If you're interested in getting a mail-in ballot for the bond, as it is a state election, those applications must be submitted to your town by April 16th. If you would like to begin voting early voting begins April 17th at 8:30 a.m. at all your town halls. Early voting ends on May 6th. We will also have a district bond referendum town hall where all of our elementary school administrators and main campus administrators, myself, along with the finance director and our technology director, will be available with our facilities director to discuss and answer any questions you still may have regarding the bond. We will also have a building committee that same night after the bond town hall. And lastly, May 7th will be the final opportunity for you to cast your vote. We hope you will consider supporting our bond, supporting our students, supporting our taxpayers to ensure we're doing what's best for Chariho. Thank you.